Acorns. Acorns were a staple for the Native American, Northwest Native American. Um, I don't even like to call them Indians. They're Native Americans would gather up the acorns, and the problem with eating acorns is they have tannins in them. Um, these are shells. Yesterday I shelled about 2 cups of, and I just use a pair of pliers type thing and give them a squeeze, and they crack, and you can easily pop the shell off and get the nice nut out. The problem with using acorns for flour and for food is that they have the tannic acids in them, tannins in them. You can actually see the tan in the water here. But the way the Native Americans I had read process these things took a long time. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. I want to have acorn brownies tomorrow. I made that one other time. Um, Mixing acorn flour 50-50 with white flour, and then you just go about with your regular brownie recipe. And they were so good, man. They were so nutty. And so, but the problem is leaching those tannins out. It's a process of, putting it in water and letting them sit. The Native Americans I read would put their acorns into a net bag in a creek, flowing water, and leave it there for 2 weeks to leach the tannins out, and then they could take the nuts and mash them and use for flour or however they were eating those. I guess you could just pop them in your mouth and eat them like nuts, but it takes 2 weeks to do that. And I figured this out a few years ago that if I put those nuts into the bullet blender and just blend it to a puree and pour it into a jar, that puree, add a bunch of water to it, stir it around real good, and it'll settle down. I put this in there last night. Put all the pureed acorn flour down in there, and then I added the water, stirred it up. This morning when I woke up, those white solids, the heavy solids, settle real fast. This creamier stuff, that's like really, really super fine flour. And it won't matter if we lose some of that in the pouring off process. But since that stuff is particulated so microscopically small, and not quite microscopic small, but very small chunks, it leaches out real quickly into the water. So you can, this last night, this stuff had settled down all the way about down to there. This morning I got up and stirred it up real good because I wanted to get the tannins to leach out of those particles more. And so it's been settling down for about 2 hours now, and you can see it's already, getting down far enough to where I could probably go ahead and start pouring it off. So what I'll do with that, and I can save us a lot of time here. I'm not going to drag you through the whole process here. I'm just going to tell you what I do. I will pour that, lean it over slow, and pour that top tannin water off. And then I will filter. What I do is I take one of these, colander, little net bag, little screen like that. And then I took a pillowcase. I cut off the corner of the pillowcase to make a filter. And when I put it in there, I always want to put since I'm going to have to scrape the flour off of this after it's done, I'm going to squeeze it through here. And I want to be able to scrape it all off real easy. So I'm going to turn this thing actually inside out the other way so that these threads, and there's a seam right there, I want that to be facing down so I'm not catching flour in there. And I'll just flop that down in my little colander into my strainer like that. And I'll be able to pour that stuff down in there, tap it around, help it go through some, and then I'll bundle it up, twist it, and squeeze that water out. I'll throw it back into the jar, add water again, stir it up, let it settle again for a couple of hours, and it'll be less tan. Might even be ready to go at that point. But I usually end up filling it up a third time. I'll strain it off again, and then I'll fill it up with water again a third time. And so, that way in a day, I can have these things like leached out and ready to go for, I'm going to make, I think I'm going to make the brownies. I mean, you can make, the stuff is so nutty, so delicious, so nutritious, and you really have to experience it. And since it's got tannins in it, even after you do this triple leaching, it will still have some tannins in there that makes it a real nice dark brown. When you make the brownies, you don't have to put any chocolate in there. You just mix it with 50-50 with the white flour, and then add your baking soda, baking powder, whatever, and make the brownies. Put a lot of butter and honey in there too. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. Some people know about acorns as a secondary, well, I call it a primary, a secondary survival food. You can get fat on acorns through the winter instead of starving through the winter if you do a harvest and you make the flour. And then I guess you could spread it out on sheets in the sun, put it on the car dash to dehydrate that flour and dry and store it for later use. So there you go. Fastest way in the world to get the tannins out of your acorns to make the best acorn pancakes, breads, brownies, muffins, cookies, and you are going to love it. And you need to know it anyway. You need to know it. People need to know where to get their food if they can't get their food running up to Walmart, So there you go. So I guess I'll just get on with the process. I'm not going to do the whole process on here. You don't need that. We're just going to make this fast, cheap, and easy, just like the girls I go out with.